of October 2021, tarehe 19 mwezi ni wa 10 mwaka ni 2021. Natumai kwamba uko salama, umeamka vizuri na uko tayari kuweza kutackle siku yako ya leo. This is a Tuesday the 19th of October 2021. Kama kawaida ama usually have the State of the Nation edition, but today we want to have a different discussion that has been informed by the general things that are happening, the events that are happening in the country around GBV, gender-based violence, the murders that you are seeing, and also mental health issues. So we're going to have a discussion and a conversation around GBV, that is gender-based violence, and also we're going to have a conversation around mental health and the things that are disturbing people these days. People are depressed, people are committing suicide, people are killing each other. The other day tumesikia kuna mungwana wa athlete. Someone just wakes up and decides, man, I'm going to kill my wife today. I'm going to kill my girlfriend. Another one wakes up today and says, I'm going to commit suicide. Some other gentlemen as well woke up in the morning, they dressed up well, they went out, they had a good time. Then they decided the best way to end the evening is to, break windows here and there, break someone's vehicles, beat up some people, beat up women, bite other people. I mean, it's a crazy world that we're living in, so you can have a discussion around all those things. Tuko na wakubwa hapa wangwana ambao watatuambia lipi inaendelea kwenye ambao tuko na daktari KIZZIE SHAKO. He's going to give us a conversation around GBV. She's a GBV activist, if I would want to use that term. Or she's someone who is fighting gender-based violence, and she's also running a foundation. She'll tell us about the foundation. And I also found out she's also a doctor working somewhere. She'll tell us about it. And also Charity KIHIKA, or Madam CK, is joining us shortly. She is on her way, so she's also going to talk to us about the mental health awareness. This is October, the mental health awareness month. People have been having a conversation around mental health. So Charity KIHIKA will take us through the issues to do with mental health issues, counsel you if they can. If she can as well, and tell you, you can share your problems, you can share the issues that you're going through on my inbox, so that I can share it with her. Naweza kukupa advice nzuri zaidi. Lakini kama kawaida, kabla tujaenda sana, lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu kirudi basi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this second day of the week. We thank you for this conversation that we are about to have as we start off with us and we finish. May it edify the fabric of this country and the tacklers who have joined us this morning. May you meet them at that point of individual needs. For we pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Haya, nimeona wangana wameamka mapema. Thagana June JN amesema ameona. Asante sana Manuel Serem, good morning bro. Good morning to my brother Manuel Serem. Ameamsha Cheptap Kibri Reds, Moses Kebene Nyiganet, Leonard Serem pia kutoka diaspora ameamsha. David Kitur watching from Kapsabet, asante. Daniel K Mosbe, good morning GB, to tuned in from Sydney. Thank you so much all the guys from diaspora, Sydney, Australia, the land down under. It's always a pleasure to have you. Ken Koech, good morning from Kaptebengwet Soy. Send out to Soy. Larry Kimonori, good morning Mr. Takla, tuned in from Chesin Gen Contractors. Good to see you, Asante. Sebastian Gibet, kijanangu, good morning. Mheshimiwa GB, asante sana Sebastian. Biwat Keno Ilari, good morning too. Na mtupe kazi wenye mko na connection tunafuata kila siku. Asante sana Biwat, endelee kuombeana. Mungu akifungua milango basi tutaweza kufungua hata nyinyi. Laxi G, good morning. Tuned in from Algasa. Asante sana Rona Hian. Good morning to Tackle. Josia Kenudia, good morning, watching and listening from Kikuyu Sub-County. Sam Sirma, good morning team Tackle, locked in as usual. Good to see you my brother. Tujile if you're logging in from Uganda ama kudunia gani. Esbon Ansen Owila, good morning, watching live from Umutu. Hayamba Wandambusi, good morning GB from Great County of Transoya. Kudos for the good work you have been doing. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Hayamba Wandambusi, good to see you. Mutish Mutinda watching you live. MC Ken, good morning Jerobito, good morning to you. Kimutai Cyprian, good morning from Nakuru. Sholim Kibet Benachi, good morning. Taklas, good morning. Korir Mesha, good morning sir. Geoffrey Masha Kasarani atuchelewi. Asante sana tu Kasarani. Sijui nani tayari washaingia pale kwenye YouTube. Baada tuone kama kuna ngona gani pale YouTube tayari washaamka mapema hii. Let me see. Would we have on YouTube? Well, it's loading. Let's see. Okay. Haya, Juma. Haya. Akuona tayari washaingia. Asante sana. Mutish Mutinda all the way from Bomet County. It's another day. The Tacklers Alpha. Good morning, good people logged in from Odilai. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to see you.
It's nice to see you too. Thanks for having me.
It's not good. It's not good for you to see me too.
It is good. Very good. I'm glad to be here.
How have you been?
Fine, thank you.
All right. So maybe I'll give an opportunity to introduce yourself to this gentleman. Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so I am Dr. KIZZIE SHAKO. I am a forensic medical practitioner or a forensic doctor. An easy way to understand that is a CSI doctor. So my work entails gathering evidence or information from people who have been injured in different circumstances, documenting that information and producing it in a court of law. I am also...
Hiyo ni kama yeye mungwana mwenye anakuanga amengojewa kila siku anaitwa Dr. nani?
Which one?
Is it postmortem?
No. I deal with the living injured persons.
Oh,
that's
you
the
live with those who are
difference
living.
between me
Okay.
and pathologists. So I am just a forensic medical doctor. I'm not a forensic pathologist. So my work is for those who are injured and did not die from the injury.
Okay.
So cases of child abuse, sexual offenses, intimate partner violence. If someone just walks up to you and hits you, I'm supposed to see people like you and document my findings. It's also commonly known as the madaktari wa P3.
P3.
Yes.
Tunawagopanga sana ukisikia P3 unajua kimuumana.
Yes, exactly. So that's been the basis of my work for the last 8 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And I also am a founder of Bunjakima Foundation. And this is a non-government organization that I founded because of the numerous gaps I noted within the system, within the criminal justice system. And so these gaps are within community level. The response to violence and abuse, to me, has severe knowledge gaps. So the gaps are across all levels, including in the courtroom. Because there is information that you might want to produce in court that is not well absorbed. Yeah. And so that's why I started Bunjakima Foundation. The aim is to advocate for ending violence against women and children, because mainly those are the victims that we see. 90% are women and children, so that we can create a better Kenya for the next generations to come.
Right. So you're saying that what inspired you to start your foundation is the experience that you've had with victims?
Victims and suspects, actually.
Okay.
So I'm more of a human rights defender, not really a women's or children's advocate. I see all humans equally. And so what happened was I would be sitting in the office and I'm dealing with, maybe I'll see in a typical day, 60 people who are alleging that they were assaulted by someone. A lot of those is domestic violence. Then there's child physical abuse, and about 10 would be sexual offense cases, so defilement cases. And I would also see the suspects, most of whom, interestingly, are fathers and stepfathers and mothers' boyfriends. And many of them, of course, were none of those. And sometimes I wondered, how is the system ensuring that all the evidence is gathered properly? Yet sometimes, there are some procedures that I was seeing were not well being done very well. Also, I noted that there were things that the public, just normal people were doing that may predispose them or leave them in a vulnerable position. So, for example, if leaving children with people they don't know, then the children get hurt. You can't assume that everyone cares about your child the way you do.
Sure.
Things like that, or letting someone you've met online come into your home after knowing them for 1 week. So things like that. And so I decided, let me try doing some civic education to educate people on what they should avoid doing and how to respond in the event that they get hurt. So if you're raped, what do you do? The usual: do not shower, do not change, go to a hospital, and at the hospital this is what will be done. And then you need to go to the police station, this is what will happen. And you need psychotherapy to ensure that you properly process the trauma so that it doesn't leave lasting negative effects on you and your behavior towards others.
Right. And I think so for us to make an opinion, I mean to shape an opinion of this and to give this conversation a foundation. Yes. First of all, what would we define as a gender-based violence or GBV?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking that. So GBV or SGBV, it has all these words. It basically refers to violence. GBV is gender-based violence, which is violence meted against a person based on their gender. So they are being discriminated upon because they are female. Usually it's female. Most victims are female. And so that's what GBV stands for. But you can tell that it's used synonymously with assault. It's used in all kinds of situations by the general public. What I prefer to expound on that and kind of define the words, the terms differently. For example, GBV can house intimate partner violence, which is violence between intimate partners. So a boyfriend, girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, wife, husband, like that. There's also child abuse or child physical assault. There's also child sexual assault or child sexual offences. So it's better to break it down that way so that when you say that's an SGBV case, everyone knows. It's better to, when you say SGBV case, then it becomes confusing. Are you saying a sexual offense, or are you saying an assault, or is it a child and adult, you know? But when you specifically say child abuse, then everyone knows it's child abuse, not just anything. So that's what GBV is in a nutshell.
Right. So maybe you can help us break it down, because now everybody talks about violence or an abuse on someone as GBV, so generalized. A child gets abused, we say it's GBV.
Yes.
Now, when you're looking at it from a legal perspective, because I mean, if you're going to seek legal redress, it must be specific under what offense, what stretch of violence you've been offended under. Is there any classifications of these things?
Yes, there are. Thankfully, the police and the prosecutors guide on the exact legal terms, which is a very good thing, so that on the charge sheet it should be done correctly. But it's also good to understand for yourselves. So it requires reading many different laws that we currently have. I encourage everyone to read the Sexual Offences Act, especially because that's where everything is broken down. So you have things like rape, defilement, gang rape, incest, sexual assault. Sexual assault is a very specific term in our law. Sexual harassment is also very specific. It's not just a general term for any form of sexual abuse. And I don't know if you want us to go through all of them now, but it's good to know
Maybe we
where
can
to
just break
find
down
them. Then there's assault. Assault is when you just physical assault. Then there's other forms of violence that may not be physical. So you have emotional abuse, emotional violence, psychological violence, financial violence. And sometimes they tend to come together, especially in a domestic setting. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. All
right. So in your own experience with people, you mentioned that you also deal with not only victims but also suspects.
Yes.
In your own experience, how do you balance? Because most of the time you've seen there have been a complaint, or there's been a general outro that sometimes violence is used as to fix it on someone, or it's used abusively on the suspects that you see. Would you say you've seen such cases where a suspect has not, you cannot actually pin the suspect and say this suspect committed the crime? And how do you handle that? Because these are things that are very sensitive.
Yes, it is a sensitive issue. And a lot of the violence that we are hearing of, especially of the sexual nature or domestic nature, you don't have witnesses. There are no cameras there, so it's difficult to get the evidence. But I would just like to say that in the event that some of these things happen in a home setting, the best thing that someone can do is make sure that they report whatever it is that has happened. Even if there's no, what to you may seem like evidence, you should still report it. Yes, there are cases I've seen where suspects the suspicion of them being falsely accused is very high, but unfortunately, some of us as a medical service provider, as a forensic service provider, it's difficult for me to do anything about it because I have to do my work. I'm not the one to decide. At the end of the day, it's the court and the magistrate, the judiciary, the judges who will decide whether this person is innocent or not. So we do our part, even though sometimes we can see there is a problem, and hope that the evidence gathered will lead the court in the right direction.
All right. Let's talk evidence, and then I think we'll shift it a bit to psychological. I was reading an incident this week. Karibu sana, Madam CK. We'll see you.
Asante sana. Good morning.
Karibu sana.
I don't know whether I should apologize in public, but I think I should. We can all make mistakes. Thank you for having me.
This is now time abuse.
It's what?
Time
abuse. There's GBV now. There's DBV. Time-based violence. Wacha ningangane na daktari kidogo. Let me ask you, daktari. I was reading a case the other day about a lady who was gang raped, and then she was pushed into a well. Now she went to a medical facility, And she was told there's nothing we can do because your evidence has been washed off. Now, in such a situation, how do you recover from it? How do you deal with it?
Well, unfortunately, after sexual offense especially, what happens is any biological material is rapidly lost from the minute, when 2 or 3 people come together or more, there's a transfer of biological evidence or trace evidence, for example, hairs, fibers, semen, saliva, vaginal fluids, all these things can exchange. And they rapidly disintegrate and, there's a very short timeline in which you have to gather that. But within the genital region, especially in females, adult females, this biological material can actually last for a number of days, even weeks. So one of the issues we have in our system is that forensic medicine and some of this knowledge is not well disseminated. You need to have training, additional training on top of any medical course that one has gone for to understand these things. So if the service providers are not aware of this, then they'll be, the victim will be told your evidence is lost. Yet there is always something you can gather, even if it's the psychological state of a person is evidence. It just needs to be collected and documented properly. The state of their clothing is evidence. It needs to be photographed and documented properly. There's any kinds of, if you're falling in a well after gang rape, I'm very sure you'll have at least a scratch somewhere. Most times you will find some kind of injury. That is evidence, and that needs to be gathered. So it doesn't have to be just that high vaginal swab that everyone knows about. There's much more that can be documented and found on this person. And that's what, this is the information that helps to reconstruct the crime that has taken place.
All right. I would want to believe that the evidence being collected, majorly would be to prosecute or to get a suspect in this case. Or is there usually any other reason for collecting evidence? It's to prosecute, right?
It would be to prosecute. Investigations are done to gather as much evidence as possible, and then this is handed over to the prosecution, who will look at it and see, is this a case that can stand trial? Is there enough evidence? So that's the purpose of evidence.
So let's assume it's strangers who probably defiled this lady, people she doesn't know. How are we going to look for those people with the evidence of scratches?
That is a very tricky one. But you still collect it, you still gather it. If there's the opportunity to gather, that's where DNA comes in very handy. If there was a deposit of biological fluids that have DNA, which is most fluids, if not all.
Just been washed off.
Yeah, assuming there's something that has, she's not gone after a month, and, if she goes immediately or as soon as possible, and you get that DNA, specimens that have DNA on them, then that can generate a DNA profile, which would be done at the government chemist lab. This profile will be kept, and what happens is many rapists rape again and again. They won't stop at one incident. They'll continue until they're stopped. So what will happen is the more people report and the more times this DNA profile pops up, it's just a matter of time before they can be caught. But of course, that's in an ideal setting, in a perfect, semi-perfect world where all these things can
in a perfectly
be done
working
properly.
system.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's study a case now. Let's make a case out of this. If I'm defiled this morning, I'm a woman, I'm defiled this morning, what should I do to get a foolproof 99% chances of being helped?
So the first thing to do, if you're safe, like let's say the perpetrator ran away. They tend to run away sometimes. Then you go to a medical
They run away
facility.
every day.
No, some of them will lock you in and beat you and harass you, But so if you are not unsafe, then you go to a medical facility. There are some that are very well trained in handling these kinds of cases. Please don't shower or change your clothes. Go as you are. I know it's difficult, but just hang on a few more hours. And then they will take your clothes. They should take your clothes. They will listen to your history. They will assess your psychological status very briefly, document what they find. And then depending on the history of what was done to you, so if let's say there was kissing on the neck or something, licking here and beating there, all that will be either swabbed or collected, documented, photographs should be taken. And then these forms will be placed aside for the police officer who is assigned to your case to come and take to the government chemist lab. After they collect all their evidence, you may be given a change of clothes, or you will have to carry a change of clothes. They'll probably find someone who you're comfortable with so that you're not alone. And then you are supposed to then go to a police station and report the incident with the medical report you'll be given, or some kind of preliminary report. They will then give you an OB number, occurrence book number, take a statement, issue you with a P3 form. Then you have to find someone who's going to fill that form for you, which may require a second examination. And then that will then be returned to the police, who will put it in the police file and present it to the prosecution.
Talking about police and V3, how much do you interact with the legal system, with the justice system around?
Me, every day.
Every day, right?
Everything I do is.
How do you describe it? How do you describe the justice system?
Well,
Especially
I've
around
not
violence.
done a study on our justice system, so I can't
I
really
don't
say
even want to study. I want your
anything,
interaction.
but
I feel on your interaction.
I think the public is misled, because all I hear is complaints from the public. They're always complaining the system doesn't work. Yet I'm always in court all the time. I'm always producing evidence in court. So I know that there are people who are doing their work, and they are doing their work to the best of their ability. And that means medical service providers, police officers, they work so hard. I've interacted with them at all levels, and police work very hard. Psychiatrists, psychologists, we are all doing our best. So yes, we have a long way to go, but we need to be a bit more positive about what is being done now, and try to work towards improving it.
All right. Biggest hurdle?
Biggest hurdle? I think for SGBV matters would be... one has to really understand a problem to be able to come up with solutions. And I find that while we have very many mechanisms in place currently being started and initiated and promoted by different state and non-state organizations, we are still fragmented, and the victim and suspect, okay, let's say victim, let's deal with the victim because they're the one who have gone through the abuse. They're still having to go to so many different facilities to get the very bare minimum they need for this case to make it to trial. And what I think we should be doing is moving towards regrouping and reshuffling all these resources and saying, okay, you want to work with the police to improve their service provision, that's great. You want to work with the medical facilities, that's great. Let's bring it all together, and everyone, so that there can be one entity that's guiding everyone on how these things should be dealt with. But right now it's extremely fragmented, and everyone is doing different things, so we have no harmony and non-standardized ways in which we are dealing with these cases, and this is what is causing evidential dilution. So you have diluted evidence being produced in court, if at all. Sometimes it's just it disappears somewhere in that long chain of events. Yeah, so that for me is the biggest hurdle, getting our decision makers to come to a place where they say, okay, let's just work together. It will need like 3 or 4 ministries to come together and create a single, united, structured mechanism for the Kenyan people.
All right. Now, before we take in, I would want to bring in Siki on the psychological point of view on what all causes all this. But there's an incident I want to bring to your attention about some 2 gentlemen who were filmed the other day at Oresereni, abusing a woman and a guy. I don't know much the story behind it, the background, but I would want just to have just an overview of the same thing, because now women are coming up to say, these people abused me, they have abused this person. Even people who are in the public space, high-profile women who have been abused by these people, they've been married to them. But still, we still have women with them who are still being abused along the chain. Now, this morning, the company which had invested 250 million in their startup company has withdrawn the investment. But let's look at the abuse part that comes with it, that we have normalized, because this is a public space. If you have the courage to come out and abuse people in an open space, then clearly it means we have normalized abuse to an extent that people can do it and they can wake up in the morning and still continue their lives. Now, we have a chain of damage that has come in. Every other person is complaining that these people have abused us. But we still have victims coming up, even women who are saying, another one was saying, I had a relationship with them, he was abusing the wife when the wife was pregnant. All these things that have come up. But we still have women who are still ready, who are still saying, guys, we are here on the line to be abused. At what point do we end these circles and all this circle of abuse?
It's very interesting what you're saying, because I think in Kenya we have actually, what you've said is we've normalized violence and there's no repercussions. I find that the males in our society are not held accountable for their behavior, and no one is speaking about it. We need other men who are in leadership positions to speak out against this kind of behavior and come up with penalties for it and accountability. We can't just have families where men are going around doing what they want, abusing their wives, as you said. Their children, they are having children left, right, and center, not taking care of them. All this contributes to violence and abuse within a setting. And the best place to curb it is with the children, because children learn these behaviors from what they see. They emulate what they see, not what they are told. So if everyone around them is violent, if all the news and every time they open a newspaper, they switch on the TV, the radio, it's just talking about violence going on, yet there's no measures in place to prevent this violence, that's what they are learning, and they'll become adults who are violent and promoting more violence, or attracting more, not attracting, but they tend to become either promoting violence or they're so used to it that when it happens to them, that's what they know, that's their comfort zone. So we need to start really actively talking about this in terms of prevention. We know it's there, so what are we doing about it? That's where we need to be steering this conversation.
Okay. All right. Madam CK, now I want us to just pick it from there, where you put it, because the people who are being abused, when we talk about gender, women, majorly. Although men are being abused, men hardly talk about it. But what you've seen come out and being broadcasted about women being abused. Surprisingly, it's the women again who become the facilitators of the same violence. Because if everyone could stand up against men who have been profiled as violent, do you think we would still be having these kids? Why do we still have this chain of she abused me, he abused me, now he abused me, I knew he was abusing her, I knew he was abusing you, but now I was hanging around there, now I've been abused, now I have to talk. Where does this whole madness end? Is it because we are too ready to be abused? Or what happened?
I want to take you back to the beginning. I will take you very back, very many years, actually from creation. And I want to say here that sin is it's in the nature. The ability to be good is lacking. A human being is a fallen nature. And the major cause of all these things is because the whole world, actually, not only Kenya, the whole world is fallen. A human being is a fallen nature that needs a higher power to be able to help this person to become sane. Because we are all, there's this adage that goes that every person is mad. It's only the degree of madness that varies. Having said so, KIZZIE has mentioned of many ways that we can be able to at least mitigate, because what I'm seeing here is mitigating. How do we mitigate? Because sin can never be eradicated in the universe as long as we are fallen human beings that have not been transformed to the mind of Christ. Allow me to say this, or to a character that is well-mannered, as she has talked about. Then we'll continue these sinful actions or behaviors, as we'd like to call them, will continue. I would like to weigh in a little bit on what she said about the reasons why these perpetrators also are never caught, and so they continue. One of the things, and thank you that you have said the government is trying and other organizations are weighing in to try and help reduce gender-based violence and all other manner of ills that affect the societies of the whole world. One of the things that we are lacking as a nation is resources. When you talked about a collection of data after someone has been defiled, I have seen in some countries, even 20 years after the action was done, because there is a database, exactly, they can be able to find this person or this woman who abused. Mainly it will be men, but also women abuse. But when it comes to sexual abuse, is generally, 99.9% is actually men. So if we had good systems that function, and she talked about an ideal place, we can be able to mitigate, and we can also be able to reduce this kind of violences. And I'll talk now psychologically. Many people actually are sick. And that is something also our society has failed to recognize. The authorities that be, they have failed to recognize. I don't know whether it's resources or maybe we do not see and appreciate that people actually are mentally sick. Why do I say that people are mentally sick? A good number of people. A normal person would not violate a woman because they say, I can be able to talk to this woman, I can be able to have a relationship, and therefore whatever needs that I have, because sex is seen actually from the psychological perspective as one of the basic necessities of life. So I can be able to have a relationship with a woman of my choice, and if I don't succeed, I can go to another. There are very many ladies that are willing to have relationships, and they are equally very good men that also have been able. Society also has good and bad people that have been able to develop relationships that led to meeting the needs of each other. So I think the biggest challenge we are having is because our society is largely very sick. And I don't have a statistic as of now to say, but what I hear or I read in some of the established nations is that gender violence is very high, like almost 50% of a whole population. We have abusers. A place like in the US, it's very common. The beauty about some of those countries, the US and UK and even Canada, is because they have the resources to be able to pursue, to follow the abusers and to be able to have them either jailed or maybe compensate or whatever they are looking for. There's also another thing I would like to weigh in what Daktari said. What is the woman looking for? At the end of the day, when you're grieving or hurting after an event like that one, you are looking for a closure. Besides the person being jailed, you want to come to terms with that. You want to be able to accept yourself and say it has happened and I need to move forward. So most of the things that, because the person may never be caught, but you're looking for the person who has been violated is looking for a closure so that they don't continue with the pain. Because if you do not have a closure, you continue hurting and hurting and hurting, which will lead to many other psychological problems, even mental sickness. You can suffer from depression or your life because of the rejection, particularly if it comes into public domain and people know that you are defiled by so-and-so or by a mob. Definitely, you might have to move from the location where you live and you are known by people and they are aware of what you have gone through. And so there is shame. There is shame, there is sadness. You have been robbed of your very being. So you might also develop a mental sickness that will need now medication again. So a woman or a man who has gone through violation is looking for a closure. And of course, if there can be compensation or if the person can be put into to prison, and so they can be kept away also from repeating, like Dr. has said, these sexual offenders are repeat, they don't do it once because they are mentally sick. And that is something we must also appreciate as a community, that these people, if they are ever known, they should also be exposed. Unfortunately, because of our culture, we are also seeking to have to speak to these people. Hey, last evening I saw somebody, they are trying to bring a cow. You kill my child and you're bringing me a cow to try and appease me? I thank God for that family. It was in public. They said, we do not want any cows here. We don't want even those apologies. Because they are grieving. They are sorrowing. They have been, their child will never come back. So why are you bringing me a cow? Because it's cultural. We want what Dr. said and what you are helping us to go into. We are looking for conviction. We are looking for at least for some sort of compensation so that our life can continue. Because the life of the murdered girl, if you saw last evening news, the life of the whole country. I am one person who sinks very low when I see some of those things. Fortunately, I know how to self-talk, but I feel sad. I am affected. I identify with the family, and it's a terrible loss. And so this person actually, because the people that are known, then they should be deterrent of those that are not known. Maybe I would like to say that.
All right. And there's something I would ask to bring out, Madam CK, on these cases happen. It's not rare cases. They're not rare cases. In a week, you'll find them. Maybe a man or a partner has killed the other partner. It's happening every time. And we talk about punishment. Punishment has always been. Jails have been there. Jails are full of people who have been abusing people, abusing each other. Women who have killed men who have killed women. It's full. We are not short of punitive measures. Then that should be a deterrent enough that I should fear to go to jail. But do you think there's an underlying problem that is bigger than just waking up and abusing someone? Is it more of a psychological? Is it clinical?
Very true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
There is an underlying effect. It is unnatural, even for an animal, to kill an animal that it cannot eat. Animals kill to eat.
Yeah.
They don't kill those they don't eat. For a human being to wake up one day and kill another, and this is happening like 3, 4, 5 times, and actually it's only what is reported. We have that which is not reported as much as technology is everywhere.
Yeah.
There is an underlying effect, and a huge, huge one, and which in fact I would like to say here, that people have seen and they have normalized. Anakuaga tu hivyo. When you see him that quiet, he's generally a very quiet man.
Ananga maneno.
Kumbe, this man is boiling from inside. He's boiling with maybe jealous. He's boiling because the woman is doing better than him also, which is jealous. But he is seen as probably as the weaker one, and he would like to be seen as the one who is the hero in this family. He is jealous because he is probably being accused of not being as equally productive as maybe the wife or the girlfriend. So there are very many reasons. Also, he could be having an inferiority complex. Many people have inferiority complex, and particularly men. Their ego, some men's ego is very low. So that now works into their mind, and they are not able to balance their hormones, so they become sick. Unfortunately, we do not understand when people are sick within our homes. Anytime you find most of these murderers, and you will ask, you can even read the newspaper, you will see, they have a sequence. First, some of them are very nice men. They are harmless. Second, they are withdrawn. They are always alone. And so people will say, anapendaga tu kukaa peke yake. Huyu ni mtu mpole sana. Thirdly, these people are also unproductive members of our society. Look at it very well. They are unproductive. So they have all the time, because they are sick, they are unproductive, they are jealous, they are withdrawn. The community needs to be very observant so that we can nab this kind of behaviors before they happen. When you see someone sleeps the whole day, it is unnatural to sleep the whole day. That's true. When someone comes home at very odd hours and they can't explain, or someone does not eat, because some of those very mentally sick people, they have this problem of depression. Actually, they are highly depressed, and so they are just they are ticking time bomb. Something like this will just trigger, and they will murder you, or whoever will be nearby. And usually, killers kill people they know. Hardly will a stranger kill someone. You will never be killed by a stranger, only the person who knows you. And that's why you find in courts, and I'm not quite competent in this, you find they want to get the wife, the husband, the brother, then the closest family member, so that they can be able to investigate and find what was the motive behind this. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. But I'm saying those people who are murdering every day, we need to wake up as a country to accept that a good number of our population is mentally sick, and we need to encourage people to seek treatment. We need to encourage family members to also support their people so that they don't get to the tipping point of committing those murders. I saw something and I watched something. There's a question also from Afan here. So if you have any questions, please, if it's too personal, you can send it on my inbox. But if you, like another gentleman who have posted something here, if it's something you can paste it on, you can type of my comment section. I would also appreciate. But now, Sik, on the same question, you've said many of these guys are sick. Yeah. Mentally sick. It's a mental health awareness month of October. So now we admit
that, well, I saw some other guy. I saw if you had the case of this guy from Nyeri who was in court, who defiled a child. And when judgment was being read, he was reading the Bible. When he was tried, he was screaming in the courtroom. I mean, you can read that this is not someone who is mentally settled. Now, in that case, CK, then can punishment fix mental problems?
No, punishment.
Because what you have now is punishment.
Yeah.
You've defiled, or you have you have abused someone. The only place to go is P3. I come and look for Madam KIZZIE SHAKO. She gives me P3. I go to the police. They come and lift this guy by these belts, and they put him in. But then again, someday this guy will finish the sentence, and he'll be out here again, and he'll do the same thing. So you've not fixed the problem. You've rightfully admitted that most of these guys it's a mental issue. I mean, you need to have a problem for you to get up to a child and abuse that person. You need to have to be having a mental problem. You cannot be normal. So how can we fix this thing? Can we fix by punishing them?
No, we cannot fix by... First, I'll define that as a depravity of the mind. And it is called incest. It's common among some particular tribes in this country, very common. I come from Nyeri, and I'll say it's common among Kikuyus. It's also common among Luyas. It's a big problem that we have as a society. Having said that, I'll say because the mind is deprived of the capacity to make sound judgment, that is why people behave like that. They are actually mentally sick. So and this is a professional advice, these people need treatment. Putting them into prison and locking them there will not help anybody. It will not help those people. It will also not bring, it might ease the pain of the person who has been defiled, the child, or the family whose child has been defiled, but it will not actually help this person. I mentioned earlier on that our systems are not fully functional, and I also do know we have challenges of resources as a country and also as a continent, but these are some of the things we ought to prioritize. When we have parliaments, they should be looking into these things because they are so repeated, and therefore we have enough laws, but those laws also do not work very well. For example, when you realize your brother is a molester of a child, or what we call pedophile, you need to rise up as a family, take this person for mental assessment, and then let them be given medication to treat their mind because they are sick, and with time these people will recover. So that way we can be able to eradicate this problem, or we can at least protect the innocent children or the women for that matter.
Okay. I think you had some comments. Dr. Kariba.
Yeah. So prisons were initiated a long time ago, and like has been said, it was to help those who feel aggrieved or violated to feel better about it, that person is now in prison, you know. But it actually doesn't help in the long run. Prison is not meant to just house people and as punishment. It's actually supposed to be an area where you gather people who are sick, because you'll not be able to reach them anywhere else. Now that they are together here, they've committed a crime and they're in a prison, they're supposed to initiate rehabilitation. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be a lockup, yes, punishment, but also rehabilitation, because otherwise you're actually creating a bigger monster in the long run. They'll be there, overcrowding promotes violence, first of all. Then that kind of environment has many other sick people in it. So there'll be extreme levels of violence and other things. They tend to also have medical issues. So you're having sexual abuse, sexually transmitted infections become rampant, tuberculosis, and all these other resources are also missing in there. So what needs to be done is that when a person is incarcerated, they need to also get rehabilitation so that by the time they are leaving, they are better than when they went in. Otherwise, then you have actually made matters worse. And I think that's what I think you're trying to say as well. And that's something that our leaders also need to think about. So if you just throw them away and put them somewhere like garbage, it's not going to help anyone.
You're putting all the sick people in one place.
Yeah,
the mother needs to get sick.
them in a small space.
So they get inspiration from each other.
Yeah. Like in other states, you'll find that they'll keep them, like in, let's say, Germany, for example. The maximum term is 15 years for any crime. But in there, of course, this is a highly resourced nation. You can't compare it. But they do a lot of work on this, the inmates, so that they are much better when they come out. They don't go back into the same kind of criminal activity.
Right. Now, there's a question from someone here. Roy Williams is saying, Gerald Bitok, I want to ask doctor on my behalf. My girlfriend always abuses me. Sometimes she's too busy to an extent she can't pick my calls. Is that an abuse?
I'll assume that's a serious question, and
I want to believe it.
if you feel abused, let me tell you something. A word of advice: life is.
Can you give a P3 for that?
It's so short that if you feel someone is abusing you, just walk away. There's plenty of fish in the sea, and no, there's no P3 for that.
Then you go and get another form of. Anyway, CK, do you think that is abuse?
No, and I will.
Is that not? You guys were talking about emotional abuse. That should be emotional abuse.
He needs to give more context.
Exactly. He needs to give more context. And he also needs to know that this is a very serious debate. We have very bad incidences happening in our country. And so his is very light. He can communicate. If he feels actually abused, it's his right. If that's how he feels or interprets it. But he can be able to maybe look for people to help the girlfriend understand that he's feeling abused and they can communicate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Roy, umesema hii sasa iko kwa mikono yako. Haya. Ongelesha madam, mwambie have a conversation, mwambie you feel abused for the reason that maybe you feel she doesn't create time for you, and maybe why. You also need to find out why they don't create time for you, why they don't pick your calls. Maybe ni kama daktari kama KIZZIE. Now, sometimes she's busy examining a victim who has been overrun by a truck somewhere. Yeah. You cannot be picking calls. Otherwise, you'll cut off the leg. So you need to understand. You need to bring it to context. You have to know why your girlfriend is behaving the way she behaves. And we get to have a talk. The problem is that sometimes, man, is that we refuse to take control of the things that matter. I mean, if you're having a problem, because that's an emotional problem, then you need to bring it out. And like, I'm not happy about this. Yeah, haya. Hiyo ndio mambo, lakini kwa sasa madaktari wamesema sasa pambana na hali yako. Haya, sasa Dr. KIZZIE.
Yes.
All right. So in your own experience with these things that have been happening, gender violence and all that, you decided to start a foundation.
Yes.
What has been the main activity of this foundation, and what does it desire to achieve, and what has it achieved, and what is it planning to achieve in the near future? And who should come to you? Who should come to you? Who do you take up in that foundation?
Okay, so now Bunjakima is the objective of Bunjakima and the mission is to create a violence-free Kenya. That I know we'll never see that day, violence-free, but we can initiate steps and conversations and spaces geared towards reducing and prevention. We have to try because, I want my children to live in a country where they don't have to be afraid of everyone around them. And I want that for all other children as well. So that's basically the objective of VUNJA. And one of the ways in which we can bring about prevention is by strengthening the criminal justice system, which we have been talking about for an hour now. In addition, what we focus on is strengthening shelters, because for example, if you're going to offer assistance to victims like these, you have to have shelters available. So we have I link with others and huge networks I have that deal with medical facilities, police, prosecutors and all that, because you need a multi-sectoral approach towards getting a lot of assistance for a woman who needs help. For example, the other day, this lady is beaten by her husband, thrown into the cold with her 6 children. She has no money, she's not eaten, she's breastfeeding. So what we do is we work together to try and find out which shelter is available, Can they take her in? Has she received medical attention? Does she need medication? What does she need to do? What has she done so far? Then we guide on the next steps. We tell her, okay, now you need a P3 form. Now go to this police station. Now you need to get a shelter. Do you prefer a shelter or do you need rent? Things like that, so that she can be a bit stable and protected and safe. So that's one of the main activities we do. We've handled over 400 cases so far. We also engage in civic education. So once in, like every quarter, we'll have some kind of theme running. For example, in April, it was Child Abuse Prevention Month. So we'll run posters and education about this on the website and on all the social media pages. Yes, so for now, that's basically what we do, and it's quite a handful. But next, we want to move towards providing forensic medical services, and that I will projecting about 2 years from now, because it's a very intense project, and continuing to strengthen the shelters, because we have an issue with shelters, especially for boys. The boy child really needs a lot of help in this area, and that's it for now. Currently, that's what we are looking forward to.
If you are a victim and you need help, you can go to Bunjakima.
Yes,
and
website.
The fact that we are saying Bunjakima means we are quiet about this thing.
Yes.
Why do you think we are quiet about this thing, Sika?
That's what I said.
Because tukisema vunja kimya means kimya tumefunga sasa.
Because we want to protect. One of the challenges of women that are heavily abused is that they lack resources. So the man will take advantage. This woman will keep quiet, because if I talk, like Dr. Ari has said, I'll be kicked out with 6 children. I have no food for them. I have nothing for them. So we need this woman who is vulnerable must speak. And the community must rally behind this woman to also speak, reinforce her message that, hey, I am being abused. So the community also, because the community, people who live around us, they know what we go through. And because we speak to friends, the community may not necessarily be someone, my next door neighbor, but my sister, my brother, my mother. Instead of my mother telling me, mvumilie tu, he's the father of your children, heck, he is the father of my children, but my children are sleeping out, and he is the father, and he is kicking them out and kicking me out as well. So ni lazima tuvunje kimya, tuzungumze, tuonge, so that we can also help this man who is actually abusing this wife and the children. Because he's definitely not a right person. This man is also struggling. He could, by the way, be going through financial problems, and so they come to vent. When the wife says hakuna maziwa, the man gets so mad because he spent the whole day looking for a job. He didn't get one. Maybe he opened his shop. He didn't sell. He never sold anything. Rent is here for the shop or for whatever business he's doing. So this man actually is already very heavily weighed down by many other problems. So anything else, which I call a trigger, will make him to be very mad and upset. And so he will kick them out because he is struggling with very many other issues. So ni lazima tuzungumze. If it is my sister, and I want to say this, if my sister is hurting, and I sincerely know she is hurting, even if I don't take all her problem away from her, I can at least try and take a little bit to minimize the pain. And I can rally friends. I can call my church. I can also encourage my sister also to be members of a group of women, because women are very powerful when it comes to building and supporting each other. So I would like to say here, kuvunja kimya, within those groups, let us expose what is happening. It may be seen that women are talking about men, but we would rather talk about men before they have killed you and they go to jail, you lose your husband, the children lose their father, than actually all that problem. We would rather try and mitigate. And if there is, I would honestly pray and request Kenyans who are listening to us, please look out on your brother and your sister. Let it start from me. Let me look out for my sister. Let me look out for my nieces. Let me look out for my neighbors. Let me look out for my neighbors' children. And let me also speak about it. Because if I speak about it, definitely, we normally say that when a problem shared is half solved. So if I speak out about somebody who is hurting, definitely this person will get help. Even as we now finally go to this organization, Bunjakima, they will even get to know we are here, and then they will empower us. So let people speak out so that we can help the violator and the violated by keeping quiet. And we are very good using cultural means of wacha tuongee kinyumbani. Kinyumbani, we are all now, we thank God again, we have realized as a country where we are in today, we are one tribe. That is making me very happy. So that if I see somebody from another community being abused, I will speak out. Maybe I can very briefly share about a house help that I had for 9 years.
No problem. Sure.
And I realized this girl was suffering. So this lady was suffering. So I kept on wanting to know what is happening. And one day she just missed to come to work. She had never missed to come to work for 9 years. So I called. I'm a friend. She's from Western. I'm from Central. But I called. I have contact for her sister. So I called her sister. I said, hey, so-and-so has never missed work. This is, during her nine years of working with us. Would you have heard from her? Nilikuwa navunja kimya. That was the first day. Then she told me, labda unajua anapiganaga sana na bwana yake. I said, what? I never even knew she had a bwana. Because when I took her, she had 3 children and she had been thrown out. So I took her also to be able to support her as a fellow woman, to give her a job and also that she can educate her children. So I said, she has a husband, another one. The girl said, Ujajua? I said, no, I don't know that she has a husband. Oh, there is this man she has been living with for the last 3 years. I said, what hypocritical is this? Uyo mama alinyamaza and she was being abused. Because I started noticing change. And so I would just say, maybe she's going through her own emotions. Women have emotional problems. So when I called the sister, she told me all these things. I said, okay, let us wait, see if she'll come tomorrow. 3, 4, 5 days, she didn't come. The 5th day, she called me. And she's crying. So I asked, what happened? Where did you go to? She started telling me, walikuwa nataka kuniua. I said, where are you? She said, niko Kawangware, Batata, sijui niko wapi. I said, is there anybody next where you are standing? She said, yes, there is someone. In fact, nataka kuingia matatu nikuje kwako. That time is 3 I'm at work. I said, okay, lakini sina pesa. I told her, get into a matatu. Call me from inside a matatu. She entered this matatu and she called me. I told the conductor, please drop this person at this particular bus stop. You will find me waiting for you there, and I will pay for her. But if you are kind enough to help your mother, you can help me because I'm your mother. Now I imagine he's a young man. If you are kind enough, you can help me by paying for this lady and drop her at my gate. So I said, akanambia ni sawa tu madhi. So me, I left it at that. By the time I was arriving at the gate, this lady is already seated there without clothes. I asked her, what happened? And with a paper bag. What she was wearing, torn stuff, I have never seen her. She said, they wamenibia manguo, I don't know, shetani, all those manner of things. She was actually abused. She was harassed. She lost it. Then I sat her down. The guard sat her down. We started now talking to her. To cut the long story short, we realized that she has been in a very, very abusive relationship and she was keeping quiet. So we talked. And I told her, give me the telephone number of your stepmother. I knew her mother had died. So when you live with someone for 9 years and you're interested in her, you know everything about her, except what she will hide. And this one she managed. I managed to talk to the stepmother and I said, please come and pick this lady here because she is very, very, very sick. Mumpeleke kwa hospitali. At least akae nyumbani mumusaidie. I took her to the hospital in Lavington. And she was actually treated. She was given some medication to now tranquilize her. To help her calm down. And of course, the rest is history. The lady recovered, and now she's back on her feet. This is like 5 years ago. And I'm in touch. What am I saying? I'm actually putting emphasis on what KIZZIE is saying. We need to speak out. And the very day, actually, even she gave me the contact of this person. And I called him. I told him, you have to come. He came to at the compound, and I asked him what happened. He said, I even asked her, why did you tell so-and-so to take the children to the village and you stay with her. That is why you are beating her, because her children are not there to help her. Imagine he said, wow, watoto walinikosea heshima. I told him, go and get lost. I will never want to see you again. Now I already called the relatives of this lady, and the mother had promised to come. Of course, again, there is financial implications. But for me, it was okay. Yeah. And for all of us, it's every one of us, if you are okay yourself, you may not give 5,000, 10,000, but you can give 1,000. You can give somebody a night. You can shield them from abuse, even their children from abuse. You can speak to the neighbors in your neighborhood and tell them that when you see somebody doing 1, 2, and 3, these people are sick. They are suffering from a mental condition. We may not have diagnosed what it is, because it's not normal. It's abnormal to do some of the things we see, to lock your children out, to beat your wife, to take all their money and leave them with nothing. It's not normal. So this person, even if it's mild, we must speak out before it becomes, it gets out of hand.
Yeah. But I would like to encourage us not to call perpetrators home, because they can hurt you.
No, I had the guards.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I can't call them home, actually. Thank you for that. They are the guards at the gate and myself. And I can also manage a few of those perpetrators. It was a broad daylight. You can see
you can manage them.
Yes, I'm an older woman, so at this age, I can't joke with men, young men. They of course,
You'll
they will
them.
retreat. Yes, they will retreat when they see it. Maybe for a younger person, but for me, in the broad daylight, hardly they. By the way, even if they are that sick, they also have a sense in them that can be able to differentiate who they can abuse, because someone who can be abused also, there are people who attract abuse. Maybe you have seen that.
These victims of abuse.
Exactly, victims of abuse. So maybe I call him because I know I'm not a victim, but I actually agree it's true. You shouldn't call a perpetrator unless you have a security with you and people who can help you, because they can actually turn on you. And they can still do can abuse you and hurt you badly.
Okay. Juma on YouTube says, good morning, Bito. Good hours for the good work you're doing. Happy to join you this morning. Vision from the UK, Vision Total Football Kenya from the UK says, Bito, mental health services need to be addressed through community health centers that are integrated as part of the health system. Rehabilitation, support, and early intervention is very critical. Okay. He continues, the mental health problem can happen to anyone and can be triggered by many things. Early supports and channels of speaking out is very key. With the right support, mental health problem will not escalate. Okay. Brian on Facebook is saying, they say they emotionally abuse men. Alafu wanasema ni uwe kama wewe ni mwanaume. Alafu they have connived with the judicial process, governments and NGOs to make laws yanayogandamiza gender ya kiume. Wanaume wamebaki kuwa suicidal beings. Men's issues are taken very lightly. I don't know if you guys have anything to comment about that.
Well, I would like to just add that we have just said severally that our country, the people in our community are sick. And that's because the violence begets violence. It's like a vicious cycle. And so it just keeps growing and growing until we start to put in measures to kind of reduce it. And like he has rightly said, niwe kama wewe ni mwanaume, that's emotional abuse, and you should not tolerate it. Something I find between couples is that they tolerate abuse from each other. Yet there is always the option of walking out. You don't have to try and fix someone or fix something that is not really fixable. Once you identify there is abuse going on or the dynamics are very dysfunctional, the best thing you can do is just exit. You don't have to force it. Because when you force it, it's in the forcing that now things get very ugly. So just stop it and go get therapy. By the way, imagine psychotherapy is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're crazy. And even if you have a mental health problem, it's okay. Just there is help.
Get help.
You can get help. Yes. So once you notice that, just get help.
Okay. CK, do you believe men issues are taken lightly, where this gentleman is alluding, and the systems have been rigged against men?
I think that is a perception that many men have right now because of the attention that has been now paid on the issues of abuse. And because most of the abused are women, men are feeling like their issues have been trivialized or they are not taken seriously. Actually, it is not. And if he has a problem, for him to ascertain that they are not taken lightly, he can actually also report.
Yeah.
He has a right, and his needs will be met. And many men also needs to wake up. There used to be this gentleman, although his group did not go very well or go very far, he was calling himself maendeleo ya wanaume. But unfortunately, wanaume wali prefer kunyamaza. They need to join this group.
Ni chairman alianza sarakasi.
That is a problem now. So it is, in actual fact, then I would say, it is men who are taking their issues lightly. Because they have the muscle. They think they can deal with these things through violence. If you insult me, if you do this to me, kama unaniringia, because uko na pesa, I can kill you. You know? So because they think they have an upper hand, they are the ones actually who are trivializing those that are. Of course, not all men. Some men are really trivializing, and it's not the system. The law in every land is for every citizen. Every person who has an issue or a case, their cases are heard on their merit, not because they are men or women. We don't have two sets of laws. We have one law, one set of law that caters for both men and women. So I would honestly firmly say, no, they are not taken lightly. Okay,
the issues of men are not taken lightly, no, all right? Dorothy Shako, been listening. Asante sana. Thank you so much, Dorothy. And some interesting and eye-opening. Frederick Juma, today's discussions talk is very good. Mental health issues should be addressed by all of us. Bunjakima, the state of mental health is still to be established post-COVID pandemic. Let's have a look at the COVID pandemic period. You know, let's look at this period from a point of you are a psychologist, a counseling psychologist. She deals with all these things, trauma and all that. From your own experience, in your own career, for the many years that you've been practicing this, how would you say the COVID period has been in terms of mental health issues?
It has, and with the permission of Dr. It has actually escalated, because what COVID has brought to the whole world is a terrible uncertainty. People are no longer certain that tomorrow you will wake up without COVID. Your brother, your mother, your sister, your neighbor, your colleague. Number two, you are not sure that tomorrow your business will be running. So many things that we were not
you were never prepared for.
It was COVID is a news that came and shut even our capacity to rationalize things. We developed phobia, a great fear of being sick. People lock themselves in. And even the protocols from the government, you lock yourself in. So we had lockups for people. We had curfews. Curfews brought a lot of problem. Counties and countries were shut. Remember, we couldn't travel. Up to now, there are some countries, I think, you can't. UK, let me give an example of UK. It's just the other day, they waived the travel restrictions. So that kind of a phenomenon that nobody thought about, nobody knew would come, put us into a lot of emotional turmoil. All of us, actually, we are affected. I am so blessed, and I thank God that we still have some semblance of sanity. This thing is a monster, I can tell you, and it has affected the whole world. Coming back into our country and in our situation, we are already suffering, and we had many other myriad or multiple issues that were, our economy was so bad. Now with COVID, it has become even worse. Many people could not pay their rent. They couldn't pay their debts. Schools, did you see what happened to the schools? So this thing actually is a monster. So you can imagine, as we sit here today, we have more mentally sick people in this country. Not even the 50% we talked about. Probably 70% of the population is sick with mild depression, moderate, severe. People are very sick. We are unable to see what will become of us tomorrow. We have lost savings of people had saved some money, those who had saved. And of course, even if you had like 5 gunias of maize in your store, you shared, you sold out in a hope that this thing will disappear so that you can plant again. The issues of rain. I don't know, this COVID came with very many bad things, including what were they called, those grasshoppers.
Locust.
The locust. I mean, it's really, people, the world is grieving. We are living, in fact, the word grieve is the correct word. The whole world we are grieving. And we are mourning the source of livelihood. And when people are grieving, they are not rational. They are paining. They are sad. And unfortunately, we do not have a way out of this thing. Having said that, I know I've painted a very bad picture. Having said that...
You painted the picture as it is. And you don't want beautiful features.
Yeah,
you want the way things are.
We believe...
Nataka vitu kwa ground vile iko.
Asante. We believe that when these things, now that we are fully aware of them, and they are no longer, it's not an ambush anymore. COVID ambushed us and went through all what we have explained.
Yeah.
What do we do then? Because that's a question. So what are we supposed to do?
What's the way out?
3 things, and very, very important. Number 1, we need to acknowledge that COVID is with us. With the acknowledgement comes adjustment. We need to, each one of us, the whole country, right from the president to the little child, we need to adjust. If it was our lifestyle first and foremost, if I was living in a big house that I was paying rent, 300,000 or 200 or maybe 50,000 or even 10, I can go to a 5,000 house. I need to accept that this thing is here with us, and I adjust my lifestyle. And not only me, but all of us. That way, we are going to be able to live for
Function,
tomorrow. Number 2, and very, very important, now that we cannot wish COVID away, our prayer is that God in his divine wisdom will take it away from us. And he has been doing it actually slowly by slowly. But again, we have learned that the world can change within a twinkle of an eye. So we need to have our minds adjusted to the fact that anything lolote laweza kutokea, so that we are not rigid. So we prevent ourselves from mental sickness. There is a lot that we need to do, and which is within our resources. Because to move from an expensive house to a lower house is within my power. If I have a small plot somewhere, I can build and I come to the city for work. And I can also work. There are so many things we have learned we can work from home. So we need to be very fluid. Because life is not as serious as we have perceived it. There is a lot that we can do, and we can still be a happy lot, even in the midst of the chaos that we are experiencing. The second one I would say is we have already acknowledged that we can't wish it away. We have accepted it is here with us. We need to develop coping mechanisms. Coping mechanism is what I have said, maybe change your lifestyle, cope with the situation as it is. If you can walk,
accept that things are the way they are.
ni kubaya, so at least try to cope now. Speak to yourself. There's this which I have said in the previous months that I was here. Talk to you. It's not bad. People say that people talk to themselves on the street. If you don't want to talk to yourself on the street walking, if you're taking a walk, then in your house, say something. Say to yourself, for example, I know I can make it because I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. You can pinch yourself. If you're still living, then you know you are okay. You can go to your neighbor. You can call your auntie. Hey, then the third thing, which is very, very important, let us learn, and I said it again here, and I say this everywhere I'm given an opportunity. Please let us invest in each other. It's so important. God created us as social being because he is social. It is expected of us to interact, to improve each other's lives. We all come together. I love Chinua Achebe. In fact, now I've decided to read the book again. When we call each other into our moonlight to heaven to eat together, it's not because you don't have or because the other one does not have. It's so that we can be able to have the fellowship for one another. Because we were actually created to live together and in harmony. And God has provided that harmony. It is us who keep on rejecting this harmony or deviating from the harmony that is already, because the sun, we don't see a mixture of darkness and light in the day. There is harmony at night. it's night. There is the moon. In the daytime, there is the sun and the light. And all those, so we have this harmony with us. So we need to invest in each other. Of course, we'll be taken advantage. I'm not in ignorance of that. But it's not everyone you are relating with will take advantage of you. You can take advantage of the good things also in the person of taking advantage of you. If it's your sister or your brother or your neighbor, you can be thankful that you've been put together by God for divine reasons, whatever they may be. So we need to invest in each other during this period. And this should be a lesson. So in summary, probably, and I would like to say, let us be faithful with ourselves. Let us be honest with ourselves. If we are honest with ourselves, a lot of the issues that we go through, even the sicknesses that we suffer, like depression, which is a depression like diabetes. And we say you can prevent diabetes by eating right, avoiding a lot of starchy food, ensuring you don't overeat, all those things. The same thing, feed your brain with things that will not make it jump. Think right. Be kind to other people. Be kind first and foremost to yourself. So that you can build that positive energy. And so your hormones can be balanced. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Work within yourself to improve on yourself. As you improve on yourself, you can be able to influence those that are around you. They can influence those that are around them. And together we can mitigate some of the problems that we go through.
Okay. Any changes you've noticed during COVID?
Well, there was the shadow pandemic, which is the violence within the home setting. That was very loud. There was a lot of defilement cases that were going on, lots of domestic violence, and the need for shelters was magnified during the COVID period. And the actual deficit of these service safe spaces was also magnified. So I don't really have statistics, but it was very rampant based on the number of phone calls that would come in. I run a WhatsApp group where I have numerous. We, as a network, we respond to such cases, and it was like so many times a day. Sometimes, everyone would just switch off because it's too much. So that was one of the things that we noticed. And again, it goes back to, on top of the emotional turmoil, the uncertainty, also the fact that you're all together in a space that is locked. So that really doesn't work well for the human mind at all. It's just like how in some prisons they have solitary confinement as a really bad punishment. It's the same kind of thing, and that just what it serves to do is again magnify the stress levels such that there's it's a ticking time bomb and there'll be an explosion at some point.
All right. Okay. I'm seeing some comments as well here on YouTube. Paul J is saying, hi Gerald, Salimia guess, glad she is articulating the state of the mental health in Kenya and the world at large. Can we get a male perspective too? All right. Okay. We'll bring a male perspective. Nicodemus Tami Atunga says, Gerald Bitok, remember how Honorable Tangula was publicly ridiculed when he reported that his wife amemchapa. That's why men keep quiet. Right. Okay, then Kano Joang, how do we balance between breaking it and balance the quality of long suffering in relationship that make Africans stay married for long? We also know many examples who have long suffered, including for the sake of children, and things have worked out. Okay, all right. Joang as well, I think he was supposed to call in. I'm waiting for his call. It's saying we also know some couples who have endured and long suffered with each other and things have worked out. How do we balance the great African value of being long suffering in marriage with avoiding abuse but not easily pushing breakup, which is common in Western countries? That's a question. All right. So they're talking on tolerance in all areas of life except marriage.
Can I just
please?
Okay, fine. When we are talking about leaving abusive relationships, it needs to be clear what is abuse and what is not. This is where psychotherapists come in handy. Even especially married people need to go for premarital counseling and therapy. And then you have to work with a therapist throughout.
Okay.
Because people change. We are dynamic beings. We change. The way I am today is not how I was 5 years ago. And that happens between the couple, among the people, the different parties in that relationship. Marriage is difficult. It is definitely difficult. But that doesn't mean every marriage needs to have some people exiting and throwing divorces and all that at each other. Yeah, but you need help to know when this is now abuse and dangerous and this is just difficulty and you can manage it. There's a difference. Yeah, but I find that couples tend to just kind of try and figure it out with the little knowledge that they have, which is not enough. They need to get help and wise counsel.
Okay. All right, we have a caller online. Nisaidia simu pale, tafadhali. Hello, niongeze hapo. Nisaidia simu. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Jambo.
Jambo, habari kitok.
Salama sana. Naongea na nani? Vaa headphones tafadhali. Nikusikia.
Hello, I'm Duncan.
Okay, Duncan Ojwang, samba daktari.
Salama bwana, unajua pia mimi
maybe this is the male perspective. Maybe it is the male perspective they're asking for. Okay, proceed.
And I worked as a counselor, family treatment counselor. I want to first recommend and commend the sisters for the job being done and with very little resources, especially from the state. That it is in personal initiative and at the danger of their life, and they are doing it for the love of humanity. So that is what cheering. My reaction, and just because I'm saying one thing does not mean I negate the other things that they are saying, is that in the process of raising awareness, we might sound like we are not appreciating the African value of long tolerance in marriage. That the Africans have a unique way of tolerating and being long-suffering in their marriage than other races. And that is why the statistics, for some of us who have even lived in a country like US, is that marriages last longer in Africa. And that is generally a good thing.
Okay.
That in the other cultures, in and out, it's very fast, and you know, and so the African setting, and I would like them to build on the African support system where we have the in-laws, we have brothers who wish well, who want couples to stay, we have the African customary law. We have the social network that we are becoming more individualistic and we are not using. But I would like them, as they teach us, to also put on the table the African values that are very important, that keep us married for very long, which is long suffering. And some of us are here, our mothers will have the tell that I stayed for you guys. I would have left, but I didn't want you to lose identity, and so I suffered a little. I died a little. We say in human rights that to get what we want, we must be willing to die a little. I die a little so that you are somebody. And we get indebted, and that could have been 10, 15 years of suffering, but they made a choice to say, I'm going to stay here for my children. And that is not a weak woman, as they try to portray. That is not somebody who is not empowered. That is somebody who is probably balancing and saying, for the sake of my children, I'm going to stay and suffer here because I'm building a future for my children. Yes, it might work. Yes, it might not work. But there is a lot of examples. There is a lot of data of how things have turned around when people have stayed and have suffered longer also. So I'm not championing for abuse. I'm not saying people stay in a situation they can be hurt. Please look for help. But I don't want it to sound like all doom. That it's all doom. There are a lot of examples of people who have stayed in, whether it's for the sake of children. If you are staying for the sake of children, that is still marriage. This is the fathers of the children. This is the mother of the children. Why is that less important than you are staying for me? So there's a little bit of westernization and individualistic that might remove from us the egalitarian value that we value as Africans. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I don't know if any one of you has any questions for Ojwang before he goes. Dear.
Well, for me, what I'll say is that we had, in the past, we had a society that did not really allow, women were not able to come out and speak out about violence in the home. Today we are talking about violence. We're not talking about difficult marriage. We are talking about violence and abuse. That's a different thing altogether. So what my understanding is that women are supposed to tolerate violence and abuse for the sake of the children. That's what I've understood from his talk.
I think he's asking the contrast of the values. What happens to the African values that we've been preaching as well? That it's only in Africa that marriages last long. I don't know. Juang is still online, so he can clarify.
I think not to hog there. I think that I'm not tolerating at all the abuse, but I'm saying, Kwanzaa, it's very wrong to say that the women were not speaking or had no channel to speak in the African family. That is far from the history. We look at the Senga system, look at the Queen Mother system. We had a robust system, even traditionally, where a woman will go to their home and the brothers will come and mediate. So it is not true. It is a feeling that it is the so-called empowered women. It is the colonization that made men head of household and made only men could have an idea and made men only the one who could work. But traditionally, women had a very robust system in our society to speak and then talk about abuse. I don't think it is true that that is not. There is no that channel. But what I'm saying is that there is a little bit of balance. There is a little bit of these things that you will think is primitive, like going under a mango tree and talking to the elders. There is this thing of calling in-laws and saying, hey, I have a problem here. Please let us also know that friends have ruined marriages, and there is a little bit of people who wish you well, and these are relatives. There is nothing more to glean from Christianity, because the Western culture gave us Christianity, but they have the highest divorce. So the solution is in our African culture, not so much the Christianity. Thank you.
Okay. All right. KIHIKA, as he's still on the line, I think it's there. But anyway, your comments. Were you hearing anything?
Yes, but can I remove this?
Yes, you can remove. Okay, proceed.
Maybe for continuity of that, and probably not take so much of our time here. What he is saying, I can understand where he is coming from, and it is true. We have mechanisms of assisting couples to live together in harmony where there is misunderstanding or where there are issues that are rising. But like KIZZIE said, we are talking about abuse, physical abuse, where one is in a relationship where the spouse is mentally sick and they are suffering. They can die in those marriages, even within the African setup. If people would sit together and realize that this person is actually mentally sick, because they could also tell. They wouldn't tell you to stay in a union that the husband might kill the wife or the wife might kill the husband. Their mitigation, the way they mitigated that is actually by maybe doing sacrifices so that they can heal the individual. And if the person was perceived to be healed, then of course there is that wanting to live together. I do not think that there is anyone who gets into a marriage so that they can be fighting. People get into marriages
for companionship,
because they have felt the need to live together. Other things will come because of the challenges of life. Like in this particular case, we have talked about this pandemic that has put people even in very small spaces and causing your mind to blow up, because we are not used to being imprisoned in our own homes. These curfews, men were used to go out before with their friends. They sit a little bit outside. Even ladies, they go out in chamas. Now even those chamas, we are meeting online. It's not the same, So there is that, we have lost that sense of togetherness. Of course, with time it will come back. But no one can be encouraged to sit in a particularly physically abusive marriage, because we have we have buried way too many people. We are not against people living together. We are saying if you realize your husband or your wife can kill you, get them treated, but of course be be safe first and foremost, even to take care of him.
Begin by being safe first.
Be safe.
That means separate. Get out of that environment. And
Let me
then
ask you
help the
something.
spouse.
So separate. Kikiumana unatoka
because
kwanza.
you can't help someone when you're the punching
You're the
bag.
object of
You
abuse.
can't do that.
Let me ask you something, Sike. You older than all of us here. And you've been married longer than anybody I've known around this studio.
Really?
Yes.
Oh yeah. This studio.
So sweet.
Yeah. So wamesema marriage ni ngumu. Unasikia even daktari is married. I think you're married with 2 kids. Okay.
That's another story for another day.
Okay. We'll pick it as some other day. When I believe, I want to ask you a question. She said marriage ni ngumu. You believe marriage ni ngumu?
In fact, thank you for giving me an opportunity to respond, my dear Daktari.
Hata niliona kijana wangu karibu anguke kwa kiti. Ni kama alikuwa anapanga ndoa ya next week.
Marriage is not hard
Okay.
at all.
The perception.
It is the perception and unrealistic expectations. Marriage actually is not hard. It has challenges. Like even when you're alone, you have challenges. If you can be willing to invest in your marriage, marriage is, I'll give an example of what a marriage is to my understanding. Marriage is like a job. And actually it is a job where you have to come to work on time, where you have to follow through your job descriptions because you already have been given and you know them and you understand them. You also have that which is your strength and or maybe a career. Let's say, for example, you're a lawyer. As a lawyer, you know you need to understand the laws of the country so that when you're defending someone, you know the articles to mention. If it is like Katiba, you know the Katiba that is, relevant to that particular. That is the investment that a majority of married people have honestly refused to get. If you get that, I can guarantee you will have a marriage that is made in heaven and lived here on earth, and you will make it. Like that gentleman said that people live. You will not live because of the children. I don't have children myself now. And I'm not in marriage because of a child.
Yeah, exactly.
You're there because you want to be there.
I am there because I am determined. This thing has to work.
Okay.
By hook or crook.
So that is the crook. What is your crook?
My crook is on my knees.
That is your crook. Because now there is the hook and the crook. Now the hook is maybe the good and the crook is the bad. Like through good and bad. What is your bad?
The bad is maybe if my husband was cheating on me. That is the worst thing for me. Not even not giving me money.
Would you still stay?
I will say sincerely, I would stay. And I know women will think I am mad. I will stay because I will work on that particular behavior. I and no other person, I will work on that behavior. I will speak, sitanyamaza. I will say, this is not part of the vows that I made. You did make a vow and you said, you forsook all the others. I will sit him down. Did you mean that? And sincerely speaking, if he tells me he meant that, then I will ask him, so why are you doing this now? If he tells me I am sorry, I will forgive him.
And if he does it 10 times.
The Bible says, because I'm a believer myself, love covers a multitude of sins. If he does it 10 times, I will treat him like a fallen brother. I will allow him to feel under, but I will keep myself.
To feel under free.
Yes. I will, in fact, graciously.
You will preserve yourself.
These people find it very difficult for me, and yet I'm speaking the truth. I will be gracious. Please take this girl. You keep this relationship for your own sake, and let me keep mine with Jesus. because I am married to one man, which is God. Now you are the husband here, and because
You've
your
decided to
needs
defile it.
are beyond me, in fact, I will engage deeper. I will invest in time and resources. I will engage deeper and find out, are you really interested in this? Because sometimes men cheat because, you see, by the way, these issues of men cheating is only because you are hiding, you're able to do it. But the moment they are caught, they stop.
No, they don't.
They stop and they go to another one.
They move.
They stop this one, they move to another woman.
Okay, yeah, that's
And the women also, as much as we are blaming men, let me put
Women are facilitators.
women
Yeah,
are
they
terrible facilitators.
Yeah.
Because you know for a fact, huyu ni mzee like mine was 60 years, right? And you are 30. You are good enough to be the daughter of this man. But you are finding him the most handsome man. And because he is fallen, he is weak, and we all make mistakes. I may not commit adultery, but I may do another sin. And to God, all of them are the same.
They're all sins.
So sometimes you magnify, like cheating is the worst. It is one of the worst, but even stealing is terribly bad. Killing is even all of them are very bad. So what I'm saying is, marriage is not difficult. We make it difficult by not addressing the issues that confront us. We need to work out our marriages. I'll not say like salvation with fear and trembling, but we need to work out our marriages with an intention of having them work, and they can work. If you buy a car, and I'm not saying a marriage is a car, and then it breaks down, do you throw away the whole car? Don't you take it and buy that particular part that is actually broken down? Where there is communication, probably that would be the problem. If the person is not willing to communicate and he's not in a position to communicate, then every person can make their own decision.
Okay.
Do I want to stay here or do I not want to stay? But I say wherever you will go, you will still confront even worse problems. Probably I do not know. Because we are living, remember when I started speaking this morning, I said, let me take you back to the beginning. We are in a fallen world. Sin is everywhere. This is a sinful world. So people are fallen. They are weak. They are frail. These bodies are given to cheating. To be honest, let us call a spade a spade. They are given to cheating. They are given to wanting a red top and not a white one, a grey one. I mean, that is how I look at it. But I'm saying there is an innate character in ourselves that we can actually decide adultery is not for me. And in my case, it's not for me. Stealing is not for me. Completely. Even if you leave your money there, you can be 100% sure.
You'll find it.
Yes, you will find it. You can trust me.
Okay.
And this is in public. You can trust me. You can also trust me in adultery. I would not even, it can't cross my mind because I am self-governed. So we need to be self-governed to manage our relationships, our marriages. And this, nobody can do for you. So when we say marriages are difficult, I think they have challenges like every other institution. And if we can take so much time to treat the world as a psychotherapist, I tell a client that I will sit for 1 hour, and I find they are venting, and I find myself in a session that has gone on for 1.5 hours. This half hour, at least I could tolerate. But when we go to the second hour, you find now this person is digressing, and I still tolerate. If I can sit to hear somebody's pain because they are unable to leave my office because they are feeling they are in a safe environment, if I can sit down so that I may help this person maybe overcome stress or severe depression, how can I not sit
with your own
in
husband
this marriage that I chose for myself? I left very many other men. He is not the only one I met. I had met many others, equally good. It all dark, handsome, brown, black.
But you forsook them.
But actually, it was very intentional.
Hey.
I said this here in this forum.
I forsake all.
Yes, and now on that day I said, I forsake all of them. And from that day until the coming of Christ, I am determined. If he goes, I will follow my conviction, the scripture. I will stay for Christ. And I let him listen to these talks we do here. If he goes, we can remain as friends. That one for
Can
me
be
was
buddies,
very-
but in the marriage. Buddies, but in the marriage.
we are very good friends.
Okay.
And even if he was to find somebody else who is better than me for him, I would not fault him for that. I'm saying he's already fallen. So I am,
Even before he does anything, he's already fallen.
and I am also
Yes,
fallen.
that's true.
I am weak. I am frail. But there is that which God has put in me. The ability to say no is inside of me. If he is unable to say no, and he thinks the other lady would be better, I can honestly say this. I will not, I will be very angry. I'll be very upset. And it will affect me badly. But I will not have to carry a heavy burden on my shoulder. I will not fail to sleep because he has gone. He will remain my friend, and I will eat, and I will drink,
And he'll sleep very well.
and I will come here.
And you'll still come here and talk to him.
And talk to
And
him.
talk to him from this
Yeah,
platform. I'm saying, all right, some comments. People are now, they're saying they want to buy you tea and soda. The African qualities should not be thrown out of the window easily. She's talking like like a true African woman and mother. Okay. All right. Another window. Thank you, CK. Now I understand the reason behind your successful family. Marriage is a union that shouldn't be broken on flimsy grounds. Okay. All right. Bunja says he's calling from Canada. Let me give you another alternative number, Bunja. I think you're trying to call. You can't find me. All right. CK. And they give you something you share with me.
Sorry?
They give you something you share with me.
I will.
Well, in some comments which have disappeared here on Facebook, I was waiting to read them. Let me see. Martin Duby says, Madam Charity is getting it right. She is on point. Jane Mumbi, with these values, why do we have kids getting raped by relatives? Nicodemus Tami says, Professor Juang spitting facts. Kujo sota kwa bili yangu. There's a comment here which I was waiting for. Ari Brayton says, no nation can ever be worthy of its existence that cannot take its women along with the men. No struggle can ever succeed without women participating side by side with the men. There are two powers in the world. One is the sword and the other is the pen. There's a great competition and rivalry between the two. There's a third power stronger than third both of them, women. Okay.
I like that.
All right. Saying Kimutai Roji says, yeah, but we need to raise our boys to see our daughters as equals in order to change the statistics of abuse. Our boys need to learn that speaking doesn't equate weakness or feminine. Speaking out does not equate weakness or feminine. There's something I want to ask you, CK, before Dr. comes in, maybe to give you a comment. I'm sure you've counseled a lot of people.
Yes.
And there's something that has been brought in by Ojwang about how things change. Like, it's a phase. We're all going through phases. And at some point, people recover from their own misdemeanors and all these things that they do. In your own journey of counseling, I'm sure you've counseled marriage. You've talked to married people who have problems in marriage, abuse and all that. Do you believe people change? Do people change? Do marriages change? Have you seen marriages which are struggling, then one day they are good together?
You have asked two questions in one.
Yes.
Do I believe marriages change?
Yes.
Yes, marriages do change for the better.
Okay.
But do people change? What people do, human beings, they recognize for this marriage to work, I have to change, adapt, and cope with this individual. An example. I am a talkative person. That is my character. My husband is a quiet person. For me to live with him every day, unless when he's traveled for over 35 years, from the time I was 20, I keep on telling people I was not married at 50, 20 years. I learned, because I was open to learning, that this person, kumbe, he is different than I am. He too learned because he was also open and willing to have this marriage work. He learned that he is very different. In fact, almost every morning we talk and we say, goodness gracious, even last night, we are so different, totally different. The things he does, some of them would make me sick. The things, the talking of my mouth was too much. He would be put off. Then he came to realize he has to cope with me and the way I talk. I learned when to talk and when not to talk. I actually taught myself, and it was a struggle. So, to come to your question, yes, I have counseled couples that were going to separate, and they are still living together. And they are happy, they have brought up children. I have also counseled couples who could not even
Could not talk.
see eye to eye, and they divorced, they separated, and the subsequent divorce went through. I have done a lot of premarital counseling. And for those that I have done premarital counseling, and some of them could be listening, in 1996, 2007, 2009, they are still together, and there are many. Some of them even I do not know, because in a class, you may not know every individual. You may know them by their names because of the register they fill in a class of like 10 couples. So those are 20 people. I may not know everyone. But sometimes I see people going to church to have their children educated, and I'm like, oh, this is that.
So it worked.
Yes. So I will say this.
There's hope on the
determining
cross.
factor of whether a marriage can survive or not depends on the team in that marriage. If people go to football with the mind of winning, they put all their effort, they risk their life, because you can be kicked and die. I have seen this game which I don't like to watch. It's called rugby. It's the most violent game, but people go there and they know you can be paralyzed. I have done hospital ministry. I met a young man who was paralyzed from the neck at the spinal injury because he was injured, but he was playing. He was playing. He got an accident, the way you can also get an accident in a marriage, in terms of accident that you have done a little fight. Can you wipe yourselves the tears? Can you sit down and apologize to each other? Have people done it? They have done it. The traditional marriages actually, and there were not many murders, for your information. Maybe we'll say there were no statistics then because reporting was not as much. But it was there. People lived within communities, and I know my grandfather
You could know
and my grandmother,
someone
they
is being
could have
beaten.
told me, your auntie so-and-so's husband killed this, but I found all of them. In brief, and probably to finish this, I want to say, marriages do work, and they are not hard work, but they work. I think we need to change the statement from that marriages are hard
work.
but we change it to marriages are hard work than marriages are hard. We can change to that. To manage a marriage, you have to do a lot of hard work, and not always. It's not an everyday thing, because again, if it is so hard and you're not able to do it, then it means you'll never be able to do it. If you realize, then you can also, there are also good ways of exiting it out of a marriage, like they do in the West. Because I'm not saying you must sit there. You can't be jailed in your marriage. But if you see the good things in your marriage and you value them, then you can be able to work on your marriage. Because marriage is hard work, but marriage is not hard. For me, it's hard work. You invest in it. You invest your love. You invest your care. You invest your prayers. I said, for me, my investments, my heavy investment for my marriage and the marriages of my siblings, and some of them also have gone bad. Others are very successful, because human beings are, we talked of dynamics. we have a people dynamics that some people may never stay together. If a husband runs away and goes for 3-5 years, and you don't know where he is, you never go looking for him. In the first place, you don't know where. So such marriages also do fail, but they can work the way we work to make it in life. We can determine within ourselves that we can work and make these marriages. We can forgive each other. We can come back together. By the way, I have seen people who are separated for 10 years coming back in this country. Not Muzungu, black Africans coming together and remarrying again in church.
All right. Your final remarks, Dr.
We've talked a lot about marriage, abuse, long-suffering, and African culture and tolerance. I think it's good to separate the issues because today we are talking about violence and abuse, and I don't think those should be tolerated in any institution because we deserve to live life in abundance and in peace. So my advice for anyone who is in a violent and abusive relationship, by the way, abuse doesn't have to be physical. It can be psychological. An example would be maybe you're called all manner of names every day. Women are brought to the house every day. That's a very inconducive environment to live in, especially if they are children. I always recommend that people, if you feel it's unbearable, you need to get help from a psychotherapist, because they really help with the clarity, and victims tend to be unable to think clearly because of all the emotional duress that they are in, whether it's physical or otherwise. So it's best to protect yourself, protect your children, remove yourself from that environment, get immediate psychological assistance to find out where you're at, how you can see clearly to help unpack the issue, and then you can decide whether you're going back or not, or what you're going to do, whether it's going to end up in a court issue after you have settled down and thought through it without being under duress.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming in, ladies. It's been a pleasure having you. The guys as well has been on Twitter and YouTube, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook as well. Martin Dube says, "Mutusaidie huku US tafadhali. Divorce rates among Kenyan families is hitting high beyond ceiling. It's bad." Okay. All right. I don't know if this is Jambo. Hello. Hello. All right. Then we cannot get him clearly. So until tomorrow, see, it's been a pleasure having you at the tackle the Tuesday of 19th October 2021. It's been a pleasure having you. The conversation that we've had as well. We hope you're going to change these things, a conversation at that time. We hope as well you're going to have human beings who can function mentally, because until we fix the mental issues, then I doubt if we're ever going to fix the deep problems that we have as a society, because it starts here. It's where it starts. If we control the head, probably, trust me, we'll have control of things. I'm saying Paul here is still trying to call from the AK. Paul, please. Paul,
how are you?
Zima on the background. All right, Jambo.
Jambo, unanisikia?
Lakini tafadhali zima broadcast on the background, please.
I don't really have anything on the background. I think it's because I'm using the same phone to call.
There's a very strong echo coming back from your side.
Okay, I think it's just going to call. I don't know what. Can you hear me at all?
Are you on speaker? Yes, I can hear you, but I'm getting my echo back.
Okay, I'm not on speaker, and I have just forgotten my whatever on the car.
All right, just proceed. Just proceed.
Yes, Gerald. I've been trying to call in several times. Is the show still on or is it over?
Yes, we are on. We are just closing with your call.
Okay, just a minute. Let me see if I can get these headphones on.
Just proceed. We can hear you.
Just a minute. It doesn't seem to be connecting. So I'll continue with the speaker then.
All right, please continue.
Yes. To this show, it's very interesting.
Thank you.
On my
proceed, Paul. Just proceed, please.
Yes, I'm going on. So basically, I agree with most of when he introduced that issue about African traditional systems for the women. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Zungumza.
what you raised has been an issue with me is about the issue of more here or based on a Christian concept. One something like that.
All right, I think we'll not be able to communicate, Paul. I cannot hear you completely. You're breaking. Okay. Thanks for coming in, Paul. Please next time get your earphones on hand, because I cannot really get you clearly. It can almost make us deaf here in the studio. So please get your earphones next time so that you're able to communicate strictly. And unaona sasa sikia tutaki apoteze masikio. Lazima tuambie maneno ya ndoa vile. All right, it's a pleasure having you. Asante sana, Paul, for the support all the way from the UK, and the guys all the way from UK. It's always a pleasure to have you. Diasporans in Australia, the USA, Ginandubi were complaining that marriages in America are failing. Pole bwana, tutaombea sana. Bet Gideon akuona. Have a blessed day, bro. Asante sana. Until tomorrow. Tomorrow is an holiday. Happy Mashujaa. Yes. Happy Mashujaa Day tomorrow, the 28th of October 2021. Enjoy yourselves and take care. I'll see you again on Thursday on the Diaspora Edition. We'll get to engage the Kenyans in diaspora. But meanwhile, let's try and look out for each other. If you know anybody who is being abused, you know someone who is abusive, you can help them get help, because we've said Sika has told us it's majorly psychological. So let's give them a chance again at life by giving them the help that they need. And also, if someone being abused, try and be there for them and try and find a way you can assist them, because Ubuntu. Let's continue. We are you. Okay, I will tell you on the tackle. We are because you are. So also in the where you live and your neighbors and all that, understand that you are because your neighbors are, and vice versa. Thank you so much for coming in, ladies. I'll see you again soon. Thank you, guys. See you again tomorrow. This is a tackle and it ends now. Bye-bye.